I still don't think I put in the amount of work I was supposed to, but I ended up with 2 clients. And that to me is the absolute evidence that your system works without a doubt. It works for somebody like me in an intangible niche. And of course, what you've taught me and how to go about doing those calls, that will be forever. That piece of information will be forever with me to use. And as I continue to use them, I know I'm going to get better and better using them. So out of my 3 calls that I had, 2 persons said yes.
What in the first place made you decide to sign up for the Growth Accelerator, so to work with me one-on-one? Because I know in the beginning, you did mention that you might not be able to afford it, and I know you were slightly skeptical because you'd worked with, I think, other high-ticket coaches in the past, and you felt a little bit burned by that experience. So what made you actually decide to work with me?
Yes, thanks. So that's true. It has been 3 months and definitely a lot of growth. It has been enjoyable. I know our sessions, it felt like, yes, we had sessions, and I think if I compare them to other programs, what you gave in that time was definitely double, maybe sometimes triple what I would have gotten in other programs. So I really appreciate that. Where you get the energy from, I have no idea, but it has always been like very amazing sessions where I feel seen and heard, and I felt valued, and like you weren't trying to I guess fit me into the box, basically. But to the actual question of what made me choose, yes, I think initially I had actually made a decision that I was not going to invest in any more programs. At the point in time when I met you, I had said, okay, I'd have this, conversation with her, and just, curiosity. And I know I have always been about, shiny object syndrome has been one of my challenges. So I did the call and met with you and everything, said, okay, would not be able to afford this. And I can't remember exactly the length of time, but I believe you gave me a free opportunity to come in and view the academy. I believe so, if I'm correct. And it was through that process as well, being able to actually see this and say to myself that, okay, if I even had doubts, this person obviously is very confident about what she's offering, because here she's giving me this access to come and have a look. And I remember thinking, even when I went back to the conversation we had, that it felt genuine. You did not force me. I did not feel pressured at the end of that call to say, oh, I feel guilty, I'm not going to say yes. Or, oh gosh, I have to say yes because this is so embarrassing, right? I did not feel at any point in time that way. And I remember walking away from the call with value. So it didn't feel also like a wasted call, despite the fact that I hadn't said yes. But I'm almost sure it was the opportunity, I think, to have a view, but also the access into the community and being able to see what was happening in the community, the interactions, what you were posting. Was not AI written stuff. It was genuine you. And I also, I loved seeing that and seeing the difference in the content. I think at that point too, I also recognized that trying to do it on my own was not working. Made that decision this year. I wanted to be a year of sales where I could really have that impact and influence. And I felt confident, reaching back out to you and saying, yeah, I know I said no at the start, but, would you have me?
At what point was your coaching at when, before we got started?
Seeking clients might have been a year at that point. I'd already invested a significant amount of money in other coaches, in a mastermind, very high level premium mastermind. The others, I didn't feel part of the community. Plus, I did not have necessarily one-to-one interaction. And I truly believe, even if someone is doing a sort of group type or membership type, having a few one-to-one, like in our case, we had some one-to-one sessions, those really make a massive difference. And you realize that the coach is actually taking time to know you and what your business needs are. So I felt that with you.
Because I think a lot of, let's say, high ticket coaches do put a lot of people through a program, and you don't ever have one-to-one access to that coach. I mean, you pay the premium, and then, you know, most of it is sitting through a DIY course or having some other coach that they've paid by the hour to assist you that isn't even them. It might be their methodology, but it's not necessarily their brain that they're connecting with one-to-one. And that's really, really common in the coaching industry. Your success and your results means a lot to me. And I feel like I need to be there. I need to be in it. That's where I want to be. That was the point of starting a coaching business, right? But yeah, so when we're working together, talk us through the process. Talk us through what me and you essentially did together, from when you came to me at day one, and, you know, what you were coaching, how that sort of morphed or changed during our time together, what we implemented as we worked together, and what that meant for you.
I was really ready to create a new offer. We went all the way back to my I help statement. We went through that entire process. You did not take it for granted that I had some experience already. You said, let's start fresh, basically, and let's go through. And, you know, we would have had discussions, very lengthy discussions, going through like questionnaires, you know, certain questions, understanding what it is that I really want to do and what it is that I'm capable of doing. So from the outset, you knew, okay, she's not a business coach. She's coming here really with more of an intangible niche. Help me get clarity on that. And I recall a lot of back and forth because I could never make up my mind on my I help and who's my avatar or ideal client. And I kept tweaking the words, and, you know, we played around with things quite a lot, but you remain very patient in that process. What was really helpful as well is after each of those one-to-one sessions, you would clearly identify what the actions were for me, and you created a dashboard. That dashboard was very valuable because I knew for myself that I would not remember. And long ago, I would pride myself in being a very accountable person. And that has changed. You really created that path for me, and in terms of all the things I had to do, when, you know, the sequence by which I needed to follow. And that was something that was absolutely necessary for me. I needed to be like I was back in school pretty much, going through, being told what to do. It felt actually really refreshing to not be the one having to tell people what to do, but being told, okay, follow this.
It was nice.
So we did that. You know, we went through everything for month one. You really very nicely placed, you know, had the spreadsheet in terms of what we discussed. I had a recording to go back to. I knew exactly what I had to do when. And every time we met, we would go back and look at, okay, did I accomplish it? Where did I have challenges? You would walk me through. You know, if you had to repeat something, you would do it. And I loved the direct contact with you. So being in the community itself and having the DM opportunity, it meant sometimes I may not have wanted to post something in the community, but I was able to send a message to you directly. And I have sent you messages very late, and we have a 5-hour difference, if I recall, right? So sometimes I'm up doing work at a certain hour and it's your bedtime, and I still message and you never complained. So that has really helped. And I mean, to be really brutally honest with you, Kate, I feel like I actually feel prouder in this program than I did in the others, because all the others I never finished. I never completed what I had to do because I was just all over the place, really doubting myself, listening to everybody else, every new thing that popped up I wanted to try. With you, I felt much more stability. I still don't think I put in the amount of work I was supposed to, but I ended up with 2 clients. And that to me is the absolute evidence that your system works without a doubt. It works. It works for somebody like me in an intangible niche. And of course, what you've taught me and how to go about doing those calls, that will be forever. That piece of information will be forever with me to use. And as I continue to use them, I know I'm going to get better and better using them. So out of my 3 calls that I had, 2 persons said yes. Yeah, more are coming in, in terms of the interaction. At no point did I feel pressured about targets and metrics and figures. But I also felt I could come into the community, and you would have a post there that makes me laugh or makes me, just share something, and I wasn't going to be scolded. And then they're getting to interact with other people. So there was such a fantastic balance. I never thought, or at least my experience up to this point has not been where business could be fun.